Greetings, dear viewers. Welcome to Achai Uncensored. Today, it's a beautiful day and a very great day that we are coming up with different discussions. Of course, today we are going to major on one that we call the theory and the greatness of the great authors that we have in the world. Those that haven't subscribed, feel free to click on that subscription button and subscribe. Today with me, I bring to you a man, a great man, of course, and a great advocate, and a great writer, a great author that has always been together sharing his thoughts through the books. Welcome to the show. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Achai, for hosting me on this show. I'm really so glad and honored. My name is Kwesiga Emmanuel, and I am a year follow student. And indeed, as you put it, I am a writer with 2 books. My first book, which I launched last year in 2023 March, titled The Magic of Successful Living. And then today, here for my second book titled All Has Changed, subtitled Uganda Through the Decades. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. As we have all known in this world, different people express their thoughts in different ways. To him, he expresses his thoughts in writing. Maybe as we get into it, let me hear from him. Mr. Emma, what inspired you to get into writing?
Yes. A wonderful question, and a question that I interfere and get to be asked everywhere I go. But of course, I must confess and tell you that writing, we are born and things we are interested in and the things we love are different. It's on an objective basis. That if you have love for football, me I have love, for example, for watching movies.
Yes.
And so that, of course, communicates to the fact that the number one inspiration for me to venture into writing is because I have passion for doing the same. That's really key and core. Because as a matter of fact, like you know, and each one of us of course knows, that you can never do a thing that you really do not like. If you're not doing it by conviction, then you will never do it. If you attempt to do it, then you will give it at least one shot and you would end at that. So it is reason number one is because I have passion for writing, because I am inspired by, I have a literature background. I've been a literature student from senior 1 to senior 6. So I have a literature background, and of course literature does expose you to a lot of literature. Of course, in the same regard, it exposes you to reading, and of course by the time before you know it, you've picked up the inspiration for writing, because you are wondering if these people can write such good manuscripts and books that really inspire me and guide my life. The trajectory of life is changing simply because of the knowledge I'm getting from the different writers. Then before you know it, you are also inspired to get into the same line, and also inspire those that you really feel you can. Point number 2, like you said, literature or writing is a form of communication. If you have your show, like you do host different people on Achai Uncensored, that is a form of communication.
Yes,
but that's something I do not have. The other alternative could be that, for example, I am a TV presenter or a radio presenter, but that's not where I am. The other option could be that I'm a public speaker and I'm on so many forums and conferences, but that's not who I am. So the other alternative, for example, is how do I communicate? How do I make people criticize my opinion? How do I get to engage and learn with different people? So mine is writing. That if I have this written, whether in my presence or my absentia, if you read this, you can really be able to interact with me, because you are getting my mind. That of course we as humans learn from communicating and interacting with society. So that when I have such a book and it is available for consumption wherever it is, that when you purchase the same, you are able to get my opinion about what I am writing about. And when that happens, I am able, for example, to get feedback from you, because you will think, even when I think this should be the Z, but for you think it is the X, and that's how I keep learning. But also, most importantly, we are different individuals, and our understanding of different societal issues is quite different. That also it is very possible and true that it is a thing you will be able to learn from this very book, that you didn't know. Or if you knew it from a different perspective, you are able to get a perspective of a different person, and of course that alone informs our learning. So basically two things: one, the desire to communicate and interact with the rest of the society, and also the inspiration and the motivation to contribute to the world of literature, especially from the African context in particular. That is my biggest motivation, and the reasons as to why I chose to venture into writing. A journey that I'm very passionate about, a journey that I'm determined and dedicated to take for my entire life.
Wow, that's a wonderful and a great inspiration that you went through to get into this. You know, when we talk of inspiration, there's always that first thought that you had on that first writing. Could you share with us your first experience when you wrote that first book of yours? Because you have told us you have written now 2 books, and I know there's that excitement that you had in your first book. Could you share with us that experience?
It's quite interesting, because I tell you, most of the things that we do as society or as humans, one, at the end, from the onset, are birthed as an idea. So I think, honestly speaking, and from my sincere point, is that at a point of birth or conception of an idea, that's when we get products ready.
Yes.
Because really, I must confess that from childhood or from the time I was in high school, it's not that I'd ever thought that I would venture into writing. In fact, I almost finished my year 1 and I hadn't imagined myself being a writer. Just like most people, or majority of us, think that writing is for professors, people with masters and whatnot. So it couldn't have come to me that easily, the thought that I can do writing. But at one point you feel like, I think I can write. Because you feel like you wonder, this communication you make on your WhatsApp statuses, on the Twitter, and it is information that sometimes contains substance and people are liking it. Then before you know it, you're thinking, what if I compile this together and have it as a product? Of course, when that happens, there comes a voice of, this would be too small, or I feel it's not superb enough for people to consume. But at least that is when things really start. My journey from the start is really interesting, because I can tell you that I did my first writing, scribbling things on a piece of paper when I was home after my year 1, and we were in house discussing, and because I had thought about it for some weeks, I had really had it running through my mind, and so randomly I pick a piece of paper and I'm saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to write something. Well, I hadn't really intended to have it as a book, but I wanted to have something tangible and practical in a written material. So I pick a piece of paper and I'm going to write about this. So I can tell you, the moment I compiled my topics to make around 25 chapters, the rest is just history, because I kept on compounding on those and enlarging them. Before I knew it, I had 100 pages, and 100 pages is a very good book, because we've seen books that are 20 pages and have substance of material of written literature. So the rest is just really history, but that is how my journey started to where I am. And of course, when you get into the journey, it becomes, I wouldn't want to say easier, but you know how to do it. So I really must confess that the challenges I had from the time I did my first book to those that I've gone through doing my second one have quite been different, because then you don't know exactly how to put a word. I mean, like, you are just new in the thing, but now you know what it takes to write, you know what it takes to publish. So it's that shortly has been the journey of writing on my end.
Wow, that's beautiful. The author himself has just spoken of 25 chapters. You know, when you talk of 25 chapters and you get all those thoughts in a book, it brings to me a question of, how do you develop your characters and the plot? Because we believe that there should be a transfer and a connection between each chapter. How do you develop the character and the plot in your books?
My understanding, of course, given my literature background, of character and plot. Character, for example, could be the people you use in your material.
Yes, yes.
And the plot is the flow
Yes.
of your literature, or whatever it is that you are writing. But also it is important for us to understand that literature is in different forms. You have novels, you have plays, so characters are mostly used in plays where you have monologues, dialogues, and such kind of conversations. So that's where you basically need lead characters. It can be fictitious characters, it can be actual, because if you are telling a true story or a true conversation. But for my sake, I am not a playwright. I don't do plays, so I do some kind of factual literature or factual writing. So this about the plot is that I am a citizen of Uganda. That communicates to the fact that I am a citizen of the world. So the plot is I've been in the world and I've seen, but also I've been in the world, and so I've interacted with people who have been in the world longer than I have been. So that is systematically how you get your flow. If I am saying I'm writing about politics, I know I've had stories of how politics was in the 90s before we were born, and I can see where the political trajectory and landscape is today. So that is how I develop my own plot of flow of events or whatever it is that I write about in my different pieces and in my books.
Oh, that's great.
It's majorly by and large informed by society and what you and I really see.
Oh, okay. We have heard from him. His writings are not based on characters, but they are based on circumstances and factual situations of the world, as he stated. Now, you have been writing a lot of books. What are those challenges that you face when you are trying to get your books published, when you are trying to organize your books ready, and when you are trying to get your books ready for people to read? What are those challenges that you face? I believe every author could face that challenge, but maybe you could share with us.
You see, I do not know if it is because I treasure writing because I'm a writer, but as a matter of fact, I really want to think, and I would want to think that you think the same, that writing is a good thing to do.
Yes.
But just like any other good thing, it's not as obvious. It has impediments that you meet along the way. And of course, your question is specific to that. Before we move, we look at the external factors that make the journey really so tough. Let's look at the internal factors. That sometimes you write, you feel you really want to write, and like you feel within you, you are telling a story. But when you turn to a laptop or pick a pen and a piece of paper to scribble it and write it, you feel you do not have the exact word, for example, to put it. I imagine that if that was not the issue, many of us would be writers, because many of us have stories to tell. Many of us have experience of society. But the question is, how do I put? I mean, you have a thought and it flows in your veins, you really feel it. But the question is, how do I put it on paper? I tell you, there are times you write a page, and the next day when you read through, no, you feel this really doesn't match.
It's not making sense.
It isn't making sense. I tell you, if you are not dedicated, even at that very point, you will give up. I tell you, I've met so many people who tell you, I have a book in soft copy that I've written 20 years back, but every time I look at it, I feel it is lacking. That is called the writer's block. The writer's block is a situation where you feel you want to write or you know what to write about, but you don't know exactly how to put it. And that's a thing that turns many of us and makes people scared of writing. Person tells you, confesses, you know what, I wrote this, but I feel it doesn't really make sense. So that alone demotivates people, and so I'm not an exception to that situation. At some point I've felt it. Maybe if it hadn't been for that, I would have written these books in a much shorter period than I've actually done. So that is one impediment or a challenge you face. Now, beyond that, it is a thing that requires financial investment. Because if we are talking about a book like this, we are looking at production. This is a product that has been produced. And of course, you cannot produce it without incurring expenses. Yes, and it's not actually small money, at least at my status. It could be relatively cheaper, but at a student status, I tell you, it's really so costly. Because it has a lot of processes. Purchasing the ISBN number, having an editor reading through your book, then interior and exterior designing of the book and all that. I mean, this is all what you pay for in the entire editing and publishing package. Now, you come to a point of you've paid for all these services, but you do not have any tangible book. I mean, these expenses are exclusive of a product as this one.
Wow.
Meaning, if it is ready for consumption and you have the material ready, you have purchased a nice BA number and everything, it's fully edited, it's ready for production. Now, you incur fresh costs of having to produce it. Because you value a book, I mean, it depends on how what contract you have with your publisher. Each book could be 10K for production. So we are now looking at fresh costs that are independent of what you incurred before it was ready for consumption. You get it? So that also is a very big challenge, really.
Wow.
And you wouldn't skip it.
Yeah, hearing from him about the challenges, there's one thing that we have to consider, the reader feedback. I am a reader of his books. You, the viewers, are readers of his books. Mr. Emma, how important is the reader feedback to you?
The reader feedback, you know, there is in production or in the economics, there are two words: branding and marketing.
Yes.
Marketing is what you do on your end as the producer. I'll come and tell you, I have the best gadgets in Uganda. Yes, you will come and buy. But the question is, you as the consumer of that product, do you assert the same? Would you still say that I have the best products? Or my marketing is stronger than my brand? The brand is what you build even in your absentia. Knowing that I've tested this soda, but this is just the best. I do not have to communicate that. But this is what comes from you, the consumer of a product. So it is equally true that even in the world of writing, because like I will keep saying, a book is a product. So you can only know how good it is given the response you get from the consumers or the readers of the product. And also, your question is being specific to the importance of the same.
Yes.
The importance is that you are able to compare your own opinions or your own written material to what society thinks. Because if I am saying that it is possible, for example, or it is very important for us to have these flowers off and instead plant a tree, and I'm justifying why. But for you as a reader, you come back to me and you're saying, no, that really doesn't make sense. Because you are giving me the importance of the flowers vis-a-vis the tree that I am for or that I am campaigning for. So when this happens, you are able to interact with society and get opinions of different people. And in the process, you are not just teaching through your writings, but you are also acquiring knowledge. Because you get to share with different people, all informed by reader feedback and response. That to me is very key and is one thing you get from having these responses and correspondences from the consumers of your product. So it is that important. Also, you can be able to tell if your product is really good, because I can tell you, just like any other product, you will not have 100% positive feedback.
Yes,
but also you are able to wage that given the feedback out of 10 people, what's the ratio of those that say this is standard and this is not standard. So from that, you are able to tell your standard of writing, and when you realize that, you are able to improve if there is need for. And if it is now that you are doing well, then the challenge and the onus is up to you to keep that same standard and keep it higher. This is something you wouldn't do if you do not have this external correspondence and the feedback from the readers, because then you wouldn't know what exactly you are writing and how it is being perceived. So perception and feedback put together really shapes your writing journey.
Okay. There's always every writer out there that would love to brand and market his or her own books. Maybe could you share with us when you brand, when your book is branded and it has been published, how do, because there's always someone who is inspired to write books, someone inspired to write his thoughts to put his thoughts in writing, but then they would not know that way of how to market their thoughts out to the world. Maybe you could share with us how do you market your thoughts that you have put in writing to the world?
It is also very true that producers of different commodities and products have different ways of having them marketed and known to the consumers. But then I will not look into what other people do, but what I do on my end. What I do is I make sure that I'll do all it takes to have my product known at least to whoever can be able to know about it. How do I do this? I take usage of my social media platforms. by and large to share such materials, to share my books. Right now I am in the process of launching this very one, but at least it is known, people know about it. At the end of the day, you'll make sure that you've had this information disseminated and known to people that you're a writer and that you have this and this book available for consumption, this and this date it can be got from here, here and there. So a person will either purchase the same or fail to, but at least they will know where it is in case you woke up the following morning and you know how you want to have it. Because at least I'll ensure that it is made known. Part of what I do is I do book launches. I did a launch for my first book and I'm going to launch my very second one. This is part of publicizing it and letting people know about it. Yes.
Okay.
Because I imagine that if you have 100, say, people in attendance at the launch, these people are going to purchase copies and they're in families of 20, 15 people and more. So you are getting known. If these people get to interact with your material and they like it, they will definitely look it up and they will be able to purchase it. And before you know it, your product is available and it is known by the consumers.
Okay, thank you so much. You want to write, you want to enjoy, you want to let your thoughts down in writing, he has told you how to market it. Maybe if, as we get to the end of the show, what is your advice to someone who would love to write, a first-time writer? What could be your advice to them?
Good question. I want to tell you that as a matter of fact, very many people, I want to think that it's about 97% like writing, but very few, or at least a very small portion, has attempted to venture into it. Like, a person tells you, you know what, I like to write, but a person doesn't tell you that they have prospects of starting on it very soon. So I could say that you can never know how good you are at doing a thing until you set out to doing the same and you start on the same. Probably if I didn't gather the energy and the courage to start on my first book, probably, yes, in fact it's true that I wouldn't be on the second, because there is no way you'll get to two without getting to one first. Really, I do not know what miracle or whatever it is that would play in between. It's a process, and for you to get to the Z, you started from the alphabet of A and B. So I want to implore any prospective writer, I mean the intending writers, to start. You can never know how your small or what you consider a vague piece could shape your career, and before you know it, you have perfected on your fifth book. I do not want to think that my first book and this second book are really good. At least I wouldn't want to think so. But at least I have hopes that with experience I am getting from these two, maybe I'll be much better on my fifth or my third and fourth book. So we progress along the way. And there is never going to be a time where you feel, now I am ready enough and now I can write the best book. Before you've written one, then you can never know. So I just want to implore you to start on the journey, and it will shape you along the way, and you will become a better writer, not just a prospective writer, but an actual writer.
Wow, that is great. On 28th, that is this Saturday, you have a book launch, and it has been moving on all the different social medias that there's a book launch of All Has Changed. Maybe could you say something to the viewers about this event, that maybe those that are interested can as well join? Yeah, tell them something.
What I will do in that regard is to communicate the particulars and the information that is in regard to that particular subject matter, which is the book launch. Like you said from the onset, the launch is on 28th of September 2024. That is on Saturday. Mark your calendars. Hurry enough. The event will be starting at 1:30 p.m. and the venue is Serena Hotel Kampala in Victoria Hall. Entrance is free. You can only support the cause by purchasing at least a copy, and a copy goes for only 20,000 Ugandan shillings. Maybe most important, and which is quite key to note, is that this being a corporate and formal event, dress code is really key, and then you will come, we'll have wonderful discussions. We'll be able to learn from the different speakers and the different panels that we'll be having. I imagine and presume that it will be a nice moment for each one of us. So whoever can attend, please make your way, and we meet then.
Yeah, the last words from him. You could say a last word to the viewers, and maybe where they could also, you can direct them on where they can get these books, your previous book and this one after the launch. Yes.
For my first book, I really have had copies, and this I always deliver on arrangement with the buyer who really wants to have a copy. But also for this second one, I am making it much easier and more accessible. Right after the launch, before a week, it will be on Amazon, meaning that wherever you are in the States and wherever, you will be able to access this book on Amazon and will be able to purchase and consume the same, which is of course quite impossible if it is not online. So this I'll be communicating in the due course. I'll have it in the different bookshops and book points, but also it will be online on Amazon, meaning you will be able to access it. If you cannot walk to a bookshop and purchase a copy, at least you have a smartphone, you have a laptop, you can be able to, using your data, you can be able to purchase a copy online. So this is going to be much more easier to access, unlike the first one.
What I was really trying to say is that you could tell the viewers your last words before we end the show. Yes.
Thank you. My last remarks are really to appreciate, because the viewers in this regard are the very people that are consumers of my products. And I really want to say that if you've not been for me, if you have not supported me in everything that I've been doing in this journey of writing, probably I wouldn't be where I am today. Because imagine you didn't like my first piece, probably I would have even lost the motivation and the morale to do the second one. So it is because of your encouragement, your motivation, the people that have worked with me, my publishers, and all the other people that have supported this cause, the first cause and the second cause. It is because of you that I'm able to do this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have really been able to do it alone. And so I really appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to mentoring and having more of young writers in this same line. That for me is my satisfaction and my conviction, and one of the reasons I am passionate about this cause that I am working.
All has changed Uganda through decades. I'm very interested in reading this book, and of course I believe I'll get a copy of it. Thank you so much for joining us in the show. Till next Wednesday, I would love to say have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.